Do you get anxious, nervous, or have a fear of the future? Whether it's the fear of an upcoming event or an interview, whether it's a presentation or an exam or just a social gathering, many of us experience situational anxiety, even if we don't experience generalized anxiety. In this video, I'm going to give you my 2-step framework for how to overcome situational anxiety, how to stop worrying, and how to reduce stress of future events. I'm Dr. Karthik Ramanan. On this channel, I help ambitious individuals end self-criticism through tools and strategies to create optimal everyday mental health. If you're new here, I would love to connect with you. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. So let's get started. Situational anxiety. So technically, this is not a medical term. Situational specific phobias are a diagnosable subclassification of specific phobias, and there's 7 criteria that go into being able to make that diagnosis, and I won't go into the details of that right now. But what if you don't hit all 7, right? What if you don't have the clinical context here, right? You don't hit all 7 of those criteria, but you know that you have, let's say, a fear of upcoming situations that honestly cripple you. That's what this video is all about. And if you're excited to learn that quick and easy 2-step framework, just hit that like button right now. Do it. I'll wait for you. Okay, good. Gotcha. Let's go. If we're afraid of something, we're afraid of addressing it, right? There's a downside to addressing whatever it is that is coming. And we know what it is. Maybe it's we don't want that vulnerability of going out there and presenting in front of people. Maybe it's the vulnerability of being in a social situation where you are afraid, or taking an exam that you don't feel prepared for. Knowing what we're afraid of, that's the obvious part. Now, the question we need to ask ourselves with situational anxiety is, what is the downside of not addressing it? What is the downside of not addressing it? What is it going to cost you to not face this situation? What is it going to cost you to play victim to your fear? Right? Only you know the answer to that question. Only you know how walking around with that crippling fear affects you. Only you know how it affects how you treat yourself. Only you know how it affects how you treat others, how you eat, how you exercise, how you approach your job. Only you know the answer to these things. Only you know how much situational anxiety affects you from being your ideal self, keeps you from being your ideal self. The question I have is it worth it? We don't stop to think about this often enough, and it's a habit that if we get into, we can actually use it to our advantage. See, the real outcome of not facing your fear, you want to get real with that, right? Why not use the mechanism of fear to our advantage and become fearful of not facing the situation at hand? That's what I do. So as an example, you want to know what my biggest fear is? I'm getting real with you here. My biggest fear is regret. My biggest fear is that one day I'm going to wake up, I'm 87 years old, and I look back on my life at that point and I say, wow, I had so much potential. There were so many things I wanted to do. I wanted to travel. I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to speak in front of people and inspire millions. That's my goal. That's what I want to do now. And if I wake up at 87 realizing that I did not live up to that potential, that scares me. That fear drives me, right? That is what I get fearful of the future about, which makes me act today. It's a different way of thinking, and I encourage you to try it. That is step 1. Step 2, think about a time that you were really afraid of doing something, taking on an oncoming situation. You were afraid of it. It really hurt your ability to function in other aspects of your life. You're worried about that day coming. And then when it did, as worried as you were, it wasn't as bad as you thought. I know that's happened to you, so think of a time that that's happened to you. Okay? Now think about another time. And another. These don't have to be big life events either. See, here's one of mine. There was a time that I was crippled with the fear of going to group exercise classes because I felt fat and out of shape and insecure, and I wanted to get fit before I went to a group exercise class. Now, rationally, that makes zero sense whatsoever, but emotionally, it makes tons of sense, right? And now I'm to the point that I go 2 times a week because the first time I went, I realized that wasn't as bad as I thought. The more you get into the habit of doing these things, the more you have a list. And I want you to write down these events that you were afraid of. And then when the time came, you realize it wasn't that bad. Now that you have that list, right? Think about all these times that you were terrified initially, yet you rose to the occasion and you did well. Now you have this list. And then next time you tackle something that you're afraid of, that gives you situational anxiety, add it to that list. This list is going to get longer and longer. And it's one of those things that you're going to be able to reference and say, yeah, I am capable. I am absolutely capable of doing that. Because look, it's very easy for us to forget how capable we are. It happens to all of us, okay? There's no such thing as being fearless because unless, of course, you have damage to your amygdala, which is the part of the brain that governs fear. So really the idea, this fantasy of being fearless is just that. It's a fantasy. What is possible, however, is to build confidence and momentum in yourself, in your life, to start to see yourself as somebody who executes, who takes action on your goals in spite of the fear. Let that sink in. Start to see yourself as I am somebody who takes action despite the fear. And that's the 2-step framework. So number 1 is you want to start to think about what is the cost of not taking action, of being crippled by your fear. And number 2, start to make a list of all those times that when you actually went and dealt with the situation, it wasn't that bad. You have to face it because ultimately that's the only way we're going to demonstrate to ourselves that we are capable. And I know you are too. Question of the day: what is the situation that you have feared beforehand that turned out to be not as bad as you thought? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to queue up another couple topics that you might like at the end of this video. And before I go, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button. I'm Dr. K. I believe in your greatness. I'll see you very soon. Take care.